Welcome back to another episode of Boys Love the Boyfriend. The boyfriend. Beep, beep. Oh, are you the truck? You're drinking tea. I'm actually drinking espresso. Espresso. Here. Wait. Yes. This should be our little thing for the show.
The boyfriend.
This week, we watched episodes 3 and 4 of Netflix's The Boyfriend so that you don't have to.
You probably already have.
That's probably true.
You've probably already watched it months ago. And I've just been thinking, oh, when are RJ and Adam going to talk about it?
We need their takes on Kazuto. What happens when they see Alan for the first time? RJ. Let's talk about episode 3 first. Again, there's so much that happens because the show is
they edit
a long period of time.
Yes, long period of time. Mm-hmm. But only 40 minutes.
Only
so
40 minutes.
It's a lot of fast cuts, a lot of fast editing.
Not a lot of character development.
No.
So top of the Shun picks die. Mm-hmm. Did you see this coming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have chosen someone else because wouldn't be anyone else that he would choose, really.
I don't think he's interested in anybody else.
So I think he used this opportunity to it's very cat and mouse for them, especially him.
Yes. Well, I think there's a real cat dog energy going on
totally,
between the two of them for sure.
Totally. And I think he wants to take his time. Every opportunity he gets to know him, then he does. And
Shun seems to me like a person who, and we're going to talk about Shun's backstory.
Yes.
But Shun seems to me like a person who needs to experience something and then sit and reflect on it.
Yes. Very much like Seokyoung from Exchange 3.
Yes.
When they have a fight, she has to sit and think about okay, what do I think?
Yes. Yeah. So he picks Dai. The coffee truck is tense. They don't really talk to each other.
No.
But then afterward, because they always do on the show, they
sit and watch the water together and talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're always by the water.
Yes.
So
the liminal space of water.
The liminal space of water, famously. So they go and sit by the water, and in the conversation, Shun says, I'm not sure if I actually like you, or because you like me, I'm like, oh, I should like him back.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I actually like that he's being open and honest about
and
it.
telling him.
Because he did famously start the show and was like, I'm not interested in a soul here.
I'm not really attracted to anyone, kind of.
Right. So then he says, but you know what would help me figure out?
I feel like a kiss on the hand.
A widow kiss.
Yeah. I feel like tonguing would really help me kind of clear my mind.
Really set me on the right path.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always have felt that way too.
Yeah.
That if I made out with someone, I feel like I would really get to know them.
I see.
Now, famously, you don't know this, listeners, but RJ, when I started dating RJ, was not good at kissing.
Because by the time we kissed, you had probably kissed thousands of men.
Yeah, scores of men. Yeah.
And so Dai does try to kiss him. He's like, come here.
Yes. And
Shun's like, no, I didn't mean now. But that's what I mean. That's how he flirts.
I like their flirting.
It's cute.
It's very cute.
And it's something that kind of eggs the other person just enough. You know?
I like that they're both 23. I feel like they both kind of are in a similar, they're two different people. They're very different energies.
Right.
It is a bit of opposites attract, but at least they are coming at it from a somewhat similar lived experience.
Yes.
Same place in life,
yes.
blah, blah, blah. Kind of energy.
It's so crazy.
Let's talk about the only thing that happens with Gensei and Ryota in this whole episode.
It's it's one of two things that Gensei even speaks on.
Do you think because they filmed this and they lived a full month all together.
They saw all the footage, right? And then, star charted.
Do you think when Taeheon, Gensei, Ryota, when they watched the show back as it was airing, were they oh, I'm a secondary character.
I think there was a little bit of that they were like,
It had to
it's
be.
the Shun and Dai
Would you
show.
feel crazy that you were like, I also was here, guys? Because there's a little bit of like Kazuto and Alan. Like Alan shows up late and then he's got work. Usak has work. Kazuto has work, right? So there's some of that going on.
I think Gensei might be, from what I gather, Gensei I think is probably fine. I would be like, if I was Taeheon, I would be like, I was actively. He feels like someone that was actively participating.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. I feel like there's always one where I'm like, what are you all not? What are you seeing? What are you not seeing that I'm seeing, and vice versa?
Yeah.
So Gensei thinks that Ryoto likes him.
Yes.
And so I think, is actually having the thing that Shun was talking about.
Yes, he's like, actively having this. Like, I think I just like him right now because he
definitely likes me.
He likes me.
Even though Ryota, we knew,
was moving on to Shun.
Likes Shun.
Yes.
Right.
But he was seeing the stars of Shun and Dai kind of get closer more and more.
Yeah. So then he's like, that's Gensei's whole, that's the plot for Gensei.
Yeah, he's like,
these
oops.
2 episodes.
Yep.
Really just the one.
Yeah.
He's barely in episode 4.
Yeah.
Alan comes in. Alan is from Brazil.
Brazil. Bem-vindo.
Alan is Japanese, Brazilian, and Italian.
His dad is half Italian. His mom is half Japanese Brazilian, I think.
His dad is he's like, this is not how genetics work, but he's like a half Brazilian, a quarter Italian, a quarter Japanese.
Yeah.
Because both his parents are Brazilian.
Yes.
Half Brazilian.
Yeah.
He is stunning, but I don't like this hair.
Oh, you don't like the red?
I don't like the red.
Matan.
No, it's not for me.
Look, it's a Luke.
It's a Luke for sure.
Yeah.
There's always the one. They come in every dating show. There's always the one who's like the
I've
off
got
the
the
wall.
hair. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Yep.
It was like Jun Song and his man too, and it was like he has a orange coat or whatever. That was like the big whoa crazy guy.
Looking back, I think in his too, it probably was Hyung Jun.
Yeah, once he came in.
Alan is clearly very culturally.
Alan clearly did not grow up in Japan.
Yes.
He is, from the Brazilians that I've met, he feels Brazilian. He feels culturally Brazilian.
Yeah.
Like, very, how do I say this without sounding like I'm reading people? Very, like, lively.
Lively.
Yes.
Yeah.
Joie de vivre.
Yeah.
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 He's fun.
Yeah.
He's a good energy to bring in because it's like just enough chaos to kind of shake things up.
Shake things up, yes.
But without being like, he doesn't seem disrespectful or anything.
No.
And it doesn't read that they read him that way.
That's true. I think he toes the line really well. He understands where the kind of threshold is for like, this is how close I can get that still feels true to me. That's still kind of like respecting boundaries.
Yes, but his appearance in the show too, I think helps because he's so honest with his feelings.
Yes, it activates everyone else.
Everyone else is like, oh, I have to step my pussy up. Yeah.
Honey. Meow.
So he comes in, he hugs everyone as soon as he gets there, which is so funny.
Yeah.
Are you a hugger?
I used to be, and then I stopped. I've probably from post-pandemic.
If people ask for a hug, I will give a hug.
Yeah.
But I feel like growing up in theater, it's such a huggy community.
High school, college, I was hugging everyone.
And I think I just like assumed that that's how you're supposed to be. And then once I stopped being around theater people 100% of the time, I was like,
oh, not everyone's a hugger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the people I work with like to hug. But I have made it clear that I'm like, I don't really like it. They'll still give me hugs.
Yeah.
But it's more like I'll be sitting at my desk and they'll like come around behind me and like give me a hug that way. And I'm like, okay, thanks. 2 really important conversations happen as soon as Alan arrives.
Alan walks in, first of all. Yes. Number 1. And Dai is like, oh my. No. Oh my
Oh my God.
no.
First of all, this is Shun.
Oh, super. Yes,
Shun
this
in the
is Shun.
sun.
Is like,
the sun. Dai and Alan have hooked up in the past.
They were like, we DM'd each other because we thought the other person was hot.
Yeah.
And Dai phrases it, you could say, I guess you would say we went all the way.
Yes, that's exactly what he says, which is great. Again, coming from the world of like
the K dating shows.
Yeah. I was clutching my fucking pearls.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're openly discussing the fact that you fucked? Now, this isn't surprising for gay men.
Right,
like
absolutely.
in any way. And in fact, if there had been 8 of them on the show and none of them had ever seen each other or hooked up, I would be like, all right.
Okay.
But
is no one from Tokyo?
It's still crazy.
Yeah. Because even here, if Alan didn't come in, Usak and Kazuto would have seen each other.
But there's not a discussion like there was in regards to the nudes. Like there was, you know what I mean? Like how it became like a thing.
Yes, he didn't have
I thought he was going to be like...
Oh,
because it kind of does reinforce what his fears are, which is that Dai's kind of
you're
like
kind
a
of
player.
a playboy. You DM'd someone and then you hooked up with them.
Right. Which again isn't weird, especially for gay people, but
but that's
what Shun is trying to avoid.
Yes, it's fulfilling the narrative that he was.
So I think it's just important to remember that he keeps seeing these flags.
Yes.
I'm not going to say red or green. I'm just going to keep saying he's seeing signs.
He's seeing signs that maybe he's not the right guy for me.
Because I think this explains some of his behaviors later.
Yeah.
So another thing is that Alan reveals that he likes big butts.
And he couldn't lie.
He can't.
And
the other thing that happens, which I think is one of the most fascinating conversations I've ever seen on a dating show ever, is they end up in this conversation about being self-centered versus being self-love versus being self-centered.
Yeah. Oh, this is already when they're...
Because this is that night that Alan gets there and he's grilling meat. And the conversation is it starts being I think it's really important to have self-love, blah, blah, blah. Very RuPaul energy. That's the vibe. And Dai, again, 23 years old, is I actually think it's more important to the crux of his position is not that you shouldn't love, not that you shouldn't love yourself.
Yes.
But that skewed in one direction too far, it can start to feel self-centered. You are putting yourself around the needs of the community.
Yes.
Above the needs of the community.
And he uses it as an example when COVID hit, a lot of his family members were very vocally complaining that the government isn't doing enough or whatever.
Yes. I thought it was that they were doing too much.
They were doing too much or something. Just just kind of being outspoken about the government.
Yes.
And how COVID is being treated.
Correct.
And Dai was saying why do you need to do that? Why do we need to do that?
Dai, I think, has a worldview of the important thing is keeping peace, fitting in. Everyone is equal. You are not above someone else because you're having a hard time.
Yes.
Which is it maybe an unkind way to look at it.
Yeah.
But
and then Taeheon was the one who was actually that's not true. I don't
That's
disagree.
not true, Ellen.
Yeah, it's I don't agree.
Yeah.
In which is he kind of brings it in more of a LGBTQ or being more liberal minded or open minded. It's if you feel like something is wrong or not even
push
that wrong,
against the mainstream.
Push against the mainstream in order to let your voice be heard.
Yeah.
And then Dai is that I disagree with because it kind of downplays the mainstream as bad or slow when in fact we're doing more. It's been the most progressive that has it's been. You know, we're progressing.
I think, yes.
But then Taeheon is yes, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
They're not arguing. They're not in this wrong team, right? They both think
Right.
the right thing, the same thing, but they both just believe like a different like way of life in going at it. I think.
Yes.
Yeah, self-love versus
Being self-centered. Obviously, it has to set up where we go into the scene right after this.
Right.
But moreover, as we get into the chicken conversation, this explains a lot of his like worldview
about the
that
chickens.
makes sense. And it, like, he's so young, you would like a lot of the times you just assume someone younger is like more like free or whatever, free thinking, whatever. But there is a rigidity to his worldview, which is seems to be incongruous with his kind of like fun-loving, carefree energy that
he brings. Yeah,
right. Whereas Shun doesn't really actually talk. Shun has a moment later about the chicken that I think is like interesting, but like Shun doesn't really offer a worldview per se. But I do think Shun is a voyeur to a lot of like what happens.
Yes, he is an observer.
When they are in the group function, his job is to watch and listen and take in how people are.
I
think feel very comfortable with Shun because he gets a lot of them coming over and being like, let me tell you
what I think.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah. This is how I'm feeling right now. Yes.
I do also want to note that Alan chimes in at the end with very like woo woo. We all should love everything is love, baby.
He's like, I come into like my presence in the world wherever I am. I like give love, and I think that kind of like people see kind of my truth and hopefully will do right by that. Which yeah.
But
it's just very specifically different from a lot of people.
So different. Yeah. But it also I just thought it was like the most.
It's a fascinating casting.
For the thing about the show that I think is really interesting, and like I'm sure we can talk once we wrap the show about like our specific critiques of like what they do right and what they do wrong.
Yeah.
One of the things that feels like is missing from the show is like specifically like watching the relationships progress because there's so much time and they whittle it down to such short episodes, that it feels like sometimes the audience is playing catch up to know what's going on. Now, on one hand, it's cool because it's like, oh, I'm just popping into their lives.
That's true. Yes.
I'm not like living with them.
It's like, it really is more that slice of life. Like we're just kind of filling in the gaps.
But on the other hand, it can feel like I'm less invested because I'm like, oh, that came out of nowhere. Yeah. Like when in episode 4, Ryota's like, oh, I like Kazuto now.
Yeah.
And it just is like kind of a reveal. And I'm like, I wish I set up a little more because I would have liked to have seen his journey or even his own realization of it.
But I do think with the Kazuto thing, and they only bring it up for Usak. But I think it's the whole absence makes the heart grow fonder. Like because he was gone for, I think 4 or 5 days in a row. They were like, when he comes back, it's like, oh, it's almost a feeling of like a new contestant. Like, oh, that's right. I had all this time to like think about him, and now I'm seeing him. He looks cuter. He looks happier. You know.
Let's talk about this conversation between Dai and Shun. So Dai, I think gets a little.
He's also drunk.
He's also drunk.
Yes,
but he gets a little upset, so he goes inside the house. Shun comes after him, which I think is very sweet.
Yeah.
And asks like what he's thinking, and I think Dai does a really good job of being like, I just think everyone has a story, and I appreciate that everyone is individual. But again, like he makes me feel like my mindset, my worldview is wrong. Right. When I don't think that's what I don't think
that's what people go out to do.
Right.
But that's kind of it is what you can receive when you bring up these topics in conversation.
Correct.
Because I think he does like to have these conversations.
Totally.
But I think as the conversation progresses, he realizes in the conversation, he realizes that like, oh, Taeheon, Alan, they have different worldviews than me.
Then he says like, Shun, I know, I can tell you have a story, and I would love for you to one day feel comfortable enough to share who you are with me, because he has made it very clear that he likes Shun.
Yep.
This is when Shun reveals that he was basically
abandoned
as a child and grew up, for all intents and purposes, in an orphanage until he was 18.
And he is 23.
And then moved to Tokyo.
Yeah. By himself.
anything, I want to make this very clear right now because I know people are going to be weird. Anything he does from now on, is like justifiable.
Yeah.
Because unless he goes out and murders someone halfway through the show, which I don't think happens, but you never know.
Yeah.
I just think he has not had a model of what relationships look like,
Totally, yeah.
except from what you see in the media.
Yeah.
And even then in Japan, you're not seeing gay relationships in the media. You can watch like BLs, but that is, as we have discussed.
Think he does, which he kind of has like talked about.
Yeah.
Or like has led on.
But as we have
talk
talked
about in this channel.
so much, BLs are not, they are fantasy. They are romance fantasy, and that's fine for what they are. But it is nothing that you would go and watch and be like, yes, this is how I communicate with a partner.
Yeah.
So, and I want to say that as like someone who also feels like because my parents like did not have a good relationship and were like divorced when I was young, and my neither of them like ever ended up in another relationship. I also feel like I didn't necessarily see the most present model of like good relationship at home. But I had like other people in my life that I could look to and be like, subconsciously at least be like, oh, this is how you like talk to a
This is how a
partner.
relationship can be modeled.
Right. He did not have that.
Anyone.
So anything where it feels like it's like weird. Plus, obviously, we also know that he like got out of that previous relationship where he felt like the guy was using him.
Yeah.
I just feel like, it's all clicking. I like cried when he talked about it.
Yeah, totally. It was heartbreaking.
Because I don't even have to explain. What do you mean? Because it's obvious. I mean, it's there is no way to not feel like you are
always fending for yourself.
And have never been wanted from the beginning of your life.
Yes.
I mean, like, there's so many it's so funny that we talk about this because so many musicals that we watch for showgaze are about orphans. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times it's because it's a trope that easily makes you feel sorry for a character.
Yeah.
Like it starts them at a lower place, so you feel like a lot of empathy immediately. Annie, Oliver. Jingle Jangle. Oh no, she has mom. Never mind.
Oliver.
All of those, right? The greats. There is no way to go through your life and not feel like you have never been wanted.
Yeah. And
then when people start wanting you, and it's because you are, and Shun, I think, is very aware that he is very pretty.
Yes, yeah.
You would feel like, it's only
because
due
of that.
to this.
And it's face value.
It would feel crazy. You would distrust initially everyone you come in contact with.
Yeah. Yeah.
We solved it.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's things that I like hope that he like works through and processes, and like
absolutely.
Not everyone is that way. But
and I think the friendships definitely like will probably help that. Having this group as like a group of friends will help. But yeah, it kind of clicked.
Yes, a lot of
Instantly.
It made sense.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Gensei has revealed this incredibly sad story about how his dad and grandpa died. Specifically, his dad had stomach cancer and within a month passed away. And one of the last things he said to Gensei was that he respects him. And then like even as he said it, he like started crying because it's like fresh. And then his grandfather died just a few very soon thereafter. Did you think that was I respect you?
Well, he was kind of saying...
Because he doesn't say like it's specifically about anything, but wonder.
I think it's because he said that he was told that he was going to have at least 3 months to live. And then he died in a month. And he was working while it got really bad. Yeah. And wasn't
in Taiwan, famously.
Yes. And wasn't able to go see him.
Anybody who's watched our channel knows that I have daddy issues. So I was immediately like, ooh. But... it would be, I think for a lot of gay men specifically.
Oh, yeah.
Their dad telling them that they respect them in some of their last days on Earth would be incredibly
powerful.
Even if you have a seemingly good
yes, totally
relationship with your dad. I think it's just a lot of, there's so much built into wanting to live up to specifically a father's expectation of masculinity.
Yes,
blah, blah,
because
blah, blah.
he is the model of masculinity that you know
Live
as
with.
soon as you are born.
Yep.
Bye.
I don't want to read like way too into that, but we are watching a gay dating show and it's on the table.
It's on the table, and he cried. So
they're gonna go on a date,
and you have to choose each other.
you have to choose each other. The only people that choose each other are daishun. Great. They go on this date. They go out to a little lunch.
And it is okay, guys.
Okay.
They are editing. They are showing them walking around the aquarium. And Dai is full of life. Oh my God, look how cute they are. Oh my God, the otters. Oh my God, we can touch the otters. Let's touch them. Hi.
First of all, I want to touch these fucking otters. Are you kidding me?
They had little like hands like, hello.
Hi, hello. It's so cute.
He was like talking to like the kids. Like he was like having a great time. And then you go into a talking head to Shun, and he's like, yeah, I think I'm losing interest.
Yeah. And that's like how the episode ends.
Yeah. And the panel again is like,
Huh? The thing about the date too that I thought was very interesting is that Shun is like, I like it to feel equal in terms of like attraction to each other in the relationship. It should be 50-50.
Yes.
And right now it feels like 80-20.
Yes.
And that's, I think, what freaks him out.
Yeah. I think it's, yes, because I think he is like, I need to be as goofy in love and as
You don't
Dai.
have to be.
But I think he believes that like in a relationship, it has to be that,
Episode 3.
Is
Episode
done.
4.
Episode 4 is now.
Is now. Usak picks Dai to go work with him in the truck, but it's only because Kazuto wasn't there. Otherwise, he would have picked Kazuto because he is like, basically Kazuto's my type. He's so sweet. Look at his little smile. Blah, 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 blah. So they go out. They work together. It's fine. We learn that Usak, I think this has already come across, even from the very little screen time he's had on the show so far. He is a very private person, which seems juxtaposed with his like go-go
His
dancer
job,
personality, right? But that is a more or less a character that you are portraying.
Yes, it's drag.
It's masculine drag.
Yeah.
Shun is avoiding Dai.
Okay. Shun is avoiding Dai, but he is laying on the couch.
There are
like,
2 instances of this in this episode, yes.
Dai comes over and he's like, hey, what are you doing? Very me, actually. Like, if Adam's just laying on his phone, I will just, like, lay on top of him and be like, what are you doing? But he keeps doing it to Shun. He, like, does this thing where he, like, listens to his heartbeat. And he's like, wow, listen to that racket. And Shun is just ignoring him.
Very. Yes, correct. Completely.
Now, if you really wanted to ignore him, you'd maybe lay down in your bed.
Go to your room.
There's something about laying on the couch. I don't think he's doing it to be like, I want attention, because he clearly doesn't.
This is the moment that I was like, oh, it's a cat and a dog.
Yeah.
Dai is, I feel like it's already very clear, even from the first 2 episodes,
Dog
that Dai
energy.
clearly has doggy energy, which again shocked us because we thought the energy would be different just based on the little we knew about the show heading into it. Shun is a cat. Shun is a black cat.
Yep.
Who is like, don't touch me unless I want to be touched.
Yep.
And it's funny that you say that, because do I have cat energy? I have now on this very podcast, you've talked about that, and I just talked about how I don't like being hugged. Do I have cat energy?
Yeah.
Oh. Interesting.
You have rat energy.
Oh. Him saying that he lost interest does not come back up in this episode.
No.
But it feels
It's
like
evident. It's obvious in his physical how he's is in the house.
yes.
Yeah.
He does go on a coffee truck run with Kazuto.
Kazuto picks him when Kazuto finally arrives.
Right. And and they talk about, he's like, oh, well, you clearly like, you guys are, a thing.
Because he was like, I feel bad because I took you away from Dai. And he was like, why? Why would you feel bad?
And I guess Shun does say like, oh, well, we're not a thing.
Yeah.
But I do like the Kazuto's like, you guys have great chemistry.
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah.
I did like that because I was like, someone needs to just tell him what's going on. He's like, oh, I think we just have like a difference in energy and it's a lot. And then Dai has like in the episode, he's like, I don't know what's going on.
Yes. I don't know why he's avoiding me.
Because there's the other time where he's like sitting behind him, he puts his hand on him and he like flicks his hand off.
But that Dai says, but I am giving him all the hints that I'm attracted to him or that I'm interested in him.
Yeah.
So why won't he reciprocate? Because he knows I'm into him.
Yeah.
He is taking in him being avoidant as like he doesn't know that I'm into him.
Right.
Or
no,
doesn't.
I think he knows.
No, sweetie, he does know.
He just,
it's
a
too
lot.
much.
Yeah, it's a lot. I also think it's interesting. So if you go back and look at the episode, the first time when they show him like flick his hand off, it like the editing cuts it right after he flicks his hand off. Later they show it again,
his reaction,
and you see Dai like hit his like hit his
what was that for?
Hit his leg.
Yeah.
So I do think like, because I'm trying to piece together why people got really weird about Shun.
Yeah.
And I would assume this is where it probably started.
Right.
I feel like showing Dai having like enough whatever to be like, to like hit him back and be like, hey, hey, bitch.
That it's like, this is established banter.
Yes.
This is established rapport. I mean, why all of a sudden change?
Shun is being weird for sure, but like, it's not, Dai is fine.
It's crazy though, because in our mind, they went on this great date. Dai thinks that they went on a great date.
Yes.
And Shun is like, okay, actually, that clarified to me that we are two different of people, and I don't actually want to be in a relationship with him.
Yes, his comment in the end of episode 3 of being like, I'm not interested is misleading, because what he really means is, I like Dai, but I think we're not compatible. I think is really what he means when he says that.
Yeah.
Not that he's not interested in him, because he still thinks he's hot. Let's be serious.
Yes, I think there's still chemistry there.
Right, and attraction and whatever. But like, Shun is a classic catastrophizer. Mm-hmm. So he is like overthinking.
Once again, justified.
Right. He is overthinking every single thing to be like, well, how can this fall apart?
Right.
So that I don't have to like put myself out there and get vulnerable to then have my heart broken.
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
All of this makes sense to me. I feel like I'm watching a very clear television show.
Kazuto finally makes his arrival.
Kazuto becomes the life of the party.
Honey. Kazuto gets to pick who, and he picked Shun, but Usak, Alan, and Ryota all raise their hands, and they don't. And Kazuto ends up picking just Shun instead.
Yeah. Now, Usak and Alan had gone out the day before, so Kazuto is like, well, I didn't want to pick either of them because I didn't want to make them work two days in a row. I don't think he likes Ryota in that way.
Yeah.
I also want to say that there is a talking head where Kazuto is like, basically like, Usak is the hottest person I've ever seen in my life. And also,
because they have a little, Usak like attempts to like make small talk with him.
Yes, and it's incredibly awkward.
It's incredibly awkward. Usak is like,
it's incredibly charming for the audience to watch, because you would think someone who looks like Usak
would be very like, cool, suave,
or just like really good at doing this because you're so hot. Like one would assume there should be no insecurity there.
Yes.
You look like that.
Yeah.
But like I've never done this before.
Yeah.
In a similar way to Alan, who also is like, I've never done this before, but Alan's is more like, feels like I only hook up.
Yes.
And now I'm like, I guess I should like,
I should really settle down. I'm almost turning 30. I guess this is,
That was very much that energy. Yeah. And then Ryota's kind of his own situation. But, yes, Kazuto is like, but I would
But
never be enough
obviously-
for Usak.
Yeah, I obviously do not even compare to the guys that he works with, who he surrounds himself with,
Yeah.
who like follows him on Instagram.
Yeah.
So like I'm probably out of the picture. And then like Usak's talking head is like,
I think he's the cutest person I've ever seen in my life.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I keep messing up because I don't know how to talk to him. Mm-hmm. But Kazuto even says like he was like I could tell that he was trying to like talk to me, and I found it really charming and sweet because
Well, this is
He's
when we have
attempting.
part 2 of the chicken conversation, because he buys the chicken. It's 1,500 yen. It's only supposed to be under 1,000. They're already giving him his allowance of the yen.
yes, and he kept being like, "Well, you kept letting me buy a little bit more
Like, every time it was, like, 1,100,
So I was like,
1,200,
okay, then
1,600,
maybe it's like better now. And then Dai literally calls a family meeting,
right.
a house meeting, to be like, I think it's just too far, and I feel like it's like disrespectful to everyone.
This is when I was like, oh my God,
Disrespectful
this
to
is
everybody.
directly connected to that conversation in the last
know.
episode about being self-centered.
Self-centered.
I don't think he thinks Usak is self-centered
I
necessarily.
think he
but
thinks
I
the act is
Yes, he thinks the act is self-centered.
selfish.
Because he's
And it
like,
needs to
in
be
his
addressed.
mind, he's like, we already have this specific allowance
Everyone
set
gets
aside for
1,000.
you,
That's
which
it.
is already special.
Yeah.
That you maybe don't even deserve. Blah 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 blah
Right.
blah. Now, I think it was fascinating that of all the people in the room, Shun is the one who's like, well, why don't we just use some of the money that we make at the truck so that it can go to
Yeah. It was like Shun and Alan.
Shun? It was like Shun's idea, and Alan agreed.
Yes. And then
And I don't understand how we got this far in the show, and someone was like, should we use
Should
the
we use
funds from the coffee
Well,
truck?
that's the thing. I don't think they explained it, but I think we deduced that like they probably split the profits, or whoever works, it's their profits to keep, or something like that, because they worked on it. So what Shun is saying, like whatever we earn, who no matter who works, no matter what we earn that day, we'll give him extra 1,000.
Because it's his job.
Because it's his job, and he needs
Right.
he he's
has to eat the
he's
chicken.
doing a lot by being here.
And then he does the like, well, can we eat more chicken?
Can we eat more chicken during the day?
during the day?
And
instead
everyone
of
also was
pork
like,
and
yeah,
whatever.
totally.
Yeah.
But then also like but Usak is very much like, I'm not trying
Usak is
to
a gentle giant.
gentle giant.
Gentle giant. And he wouldn't need to be gentle with me, but
Absolutely not. Front ways, back ways, sideways, pretzel. is it?
the spread eagle.
But even Usak is like, I really don't mean to do this. And so I don't mean to like be selfish or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone agrees, right? Everyone is kind of like, yeah, that's fine.
The
Yes.
only person who was mad about this was Dai.
I know. And so like Usak comes to talk to him.
Fascinating.
He talks to him afterwards. Well, he's
Dai is type A.
maybe is Dai the type A and not Taeheon? I think Taeheon is still type A.
I would love to know anything about
I would
Taeheon.
love to know a single thing about Taeheon.
Other than
but they
the
won't
fact
let
that
him.
he's gorgeous.
I think Taeheon may be type A, but I think he also keeps his boundaries very well. So
Yeah.
he doesn't let on to everyone that they don't need to.
Yeah. So Kazuto and Shun go out and sell coffee. They come back.
As soon as they get back, though, he sends a text to Alan.
Yes.
He was like, hey, can we talk when I get home? And Alan was like,
Hello?
and that's when we were like, oh, they can text each other.
This is new. This is brand new.
No
Brand new
idea.
information. So they go out on the terrace,
And Kazuto says, I was going to pick you, but I didn't want to
make you work 2
make
days
you
in a
work
row.
2 days in a row. So I just want to let you know.
Great.
And then Alan says,
No. Nope.
Well, Alan also says,
He's like,
okay,
thank you. It's nice that you acknowledge
Yes.
that
If
you
we
like
ever go on a
me
date-
because I like you
yes.
too.
And because I like you too. And
Yes.
if I get to pick, there's opportunity where I was able to pick, I would also pick you.
Yes. Okay. Usak then goes outside.
Yes, because everyone was like, oh,
Everyone's
Alan and,
watching.
Oh, guys, Alan and
I
Kazuto
love
are talking.
this.
Alan and Kazuto are talking.
Usak goes outside and is like,
Hey, do you have a sec? Hey, can I
Hey.
steal you for a sec?
Hey, can I steal you for a sec? So Usak is Basically, like, I really like you.
You're my type. He says, you're my type.
Yes.
And Kazuto's like,
Gagged.
Excuse
He
me.
for sure thought it wasn't.
No, I don't think he
At all.
thought. He probably thought it was Dai or Taeheon. He's probably like, he only likes the other super buff guys.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah. But also Kazuto is also like built.
He's like,
Toned.
he's toned.
Very toned.
His muscles are like, because I worked in a farm when I was growing up and now I work as a chef. So I
Yeah.
need to be standing all day.
Yeah. I mean, I don't look like that from just standing all day, but slay to him, king. So he's kind of gagged to this information, and
like a
Usak
little-
is also like, if I have a chance to date you, I
Yes.
want to go on a date with you.
Yeah. And Kazuto's like giddy in the talking head.
Yes. And I do want to say that one is very specifically like they go back to the fact that like Kazuto was working, then Usak was working, then Kazuto was working, then Usak was working, Kazuto was working.
They
So
never had
could
time.
never have
Yes.
time. They're at this like dinner table and they're all eating and some of them are eating and talking. Not all.
talking.
Not they're all
Yeah.
not there. And at the dinner table, Alan is like, yeah, it's so crazy. I've never like fallen in love at first sight, but I do think I feel that way about Kazuto.
Like, I think there was a spark the second I saw him. And Kazuto was like,
Which this feels great. Even like, listen, I'm not going to say I'm like well versed on Japanese culture, but I was like, I don't think you normally, I would feel like that would be weird even in America to be like, yeah, we're just like, I feel like as soon as I saw it in front of a group of people,
in a group, we're like, yeah, as soon as I saw this bitch.
as soon as I saw him, I was like, wow, he's the one for me.
Yeah.
That is so, I mean, shout out to you, King, because
Yeah.
that is bold as hell.
Yeah.
And everyone is like, oh, oh. And Ryota's like, what do you mean? And this is apparently when Ryota decides that he is like, because he's like, no, Kazuto should go on a date with me. That's when he's like, oh, I like Kazuto.
Yes. Well,
I don't think Ryota knows what he likes.
I don't think he knows either. Usak, Shun, and Ryota are all sitting down together, and Usak was like, you know what was so crazy about that thing that just happened? I also went to Kazuto today and told him that I liked him.
Yeah.
Usak goes away.
He's like, I go to the bathroom.
I gotta go to the bathroom. Shun is like, oh my God, let me draw a diagram of like who likes Kazuto, because this is so fun.
Yeah.
Ryota comes back. We thought that he was gonna say, oh, he's gonna say he likes him because he has. He says, I thirdly also like Kazuto.
Yeah.
And then in the talking head, he says, I used to like Shun, but girl with whatever those shoes going on,
they got,
I don't even want.
I dropped it.
I dropped it, and now all I think about is that hunk of a chef.
Yeah. I mean, really, it was really because he's committed to, data and being truthful and not spreading misinformation. He wanted to make sure the diagram reflected
accurate.
all parties.
Yes, because he was like, "Oh, if we're going
to be putting who likes Kazuto, we do need to include me on there as well."
I also have to nominate myself.
Insane. So
So then he texts Kazuto and talks to him that evening, and Kazuto's like, "Hey, dude, what's up?" And Ryota's like, "I like you as well.
As well.
So if there's an opportunity for me to choose you in something, I would also choose you." And he's like, "Thank you."
Wow.
And then
This is all one night.
one
by the
night,
way.
guys. One
Kazuto?
night. Kazuto arrived like that morning, I
Yeah.
think, or like the night before.
I mean, I understand what Kazuto's going through. Like, I can't. My God, like, I just had constant men throwing themselves at me.
Or throwing things at you to get out.
Tomatoes, rotten tomatoes.
Kazuto goes in his room and it's like, I
gotta-
can't do this.
I gotta get out of
I
here.
gotta get out of here.
The next day, they find out they're gonna have a sleepover date.
Sleepover date. But it's only for people that, again, match
Each other. At the end of the episode, we find out that Kazuto and someone are gonna go on a sleepover date. We don't know if there's another couple. We just know
We
that.
just know that one of them is Kazuto and then someone.
Yeah. I just want to shout out the moment in the best part of these two episodes. I think it was in episode 3. It was definitely in episode 3. It was after the conversation between Dai and Shun. And Shun plays the piano. And even the panel was like, this is like a cinematic moment.
Yeah.
This is like watching a drama. This is watching a movie.
And Dai is like, oh, what are you playing? Are you just? And he's like, I'm just making it up
He's just making up
as
chords.
I go, and he's just playing to like make genuinely just to make Dai feel better.
It is one of the most
That's so sweet.
tender,
Yeah.
beautiful things I've like ever seen
Yeah.
another person do for someone else.
And I think it's also like Shun saw, right, that like Dai was getting heated and like something he was feeling a type of way. And he wasn't passing judgment on him or anyone in the house.
Correct.
Right? It
Yeah.
was just like, I saw that that's just how people will sometimes clash. And so I'm
Yeah.
just here to like make sure that you're okay. That's it.
That is what I think is like his strong suit of
Yeah.
being the one who's like watching and observing when
Totally.
everyone's all together.
Totally.
Because he's able to suss out like who needs
An extra.
an extra
Just,
helping hand.
Yeah.
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 I was just incredibly impressed with that kind of, I don't know. Because we obviously in the first 2 episodes we had where Shun was sick and so Dai gave him like medicine.
Yes, and
so
so
it's now 2.
They have reciprocated to each other of taking care of one another.
Yes, in different ways. Who would you pick
Who would
to
I
go on a
pick
sleepover date?
on a sleepover date?
Yes. Kazuto?
Yes. We would be eating. Good.
I don't think I would. I don't think he would be the one I'd be pursuing on the show. But if I was to be like, okay, a sleepover date means we're definitely at least feeling each other's bodies.
At least one.
I am
there's only one
100% picking
taeheon.
usak.
Oh. Oh, you want body tea?
I want body tea, bitch.
Yeah.
I would be like, do a little show for me, a little private one-on-one. You know what I mean?
I would also pick Gensei. I was saying like while we were watching these episodes, I was like, Gensei
He's
just
so
feels so
sweet.
sweet,
He's
and like
so
I
sweet.
think he would be like a Judy. Like I think we would like
Yes.
get along and
Yes.
like kiki. I mean,
Yes.
I know Alan would be a Judy.
Oh,
Girl.
He's the most like He like
Yes.
feels the most Western, obviously.
Yes, he reminds
Yeah.
me of my very close friends, like
Mm-hmm.
very close. So that's why whenever he came on, I was like, yeah,
That's the girl.
that's my sister.
Yeah.
But who do you think Kazuto picked?
Discovering voices. Building worlds. The Ampliverse.